Okay, so we left off talking about this formula here, where we're talking about y2 minus y1 and over x2 minus x1. Now, what you also need to take into consideration, and we're going to get to that after we talk about just kind of the basics of calculating that gradient, is that we need to think about the fact that if I want a speed, basically, if I'm working at the average speed, I don't really want to do it in kilometers per minute, okay? What I really want is kilometers per hour. So we're going to talk about how can I do those conversions in a minute. Okay? So, I'm going to just flip through this PowerPoint really quickly. Okay, so B, C, and D. Okay, it gives us the coordinates. So after 20 minutes, so our x-axis, again, is our time in minutes. The car was 16 kilometers away from Barnsley. Okay? Same thing for C. Okay, so after 30 minutes, the car was 35 kilometers away from Barnsley. They've done a much nicer job with their arrows than I was doing with my drawing. After 50 minutes, the car was 50 kilometers away from Barnsley, so at Nottingham. D to F, again, we waited for 20 minutes. Okay, then it took 60 minutes to drive back. So, working out the average speed. So, again, just like I said, we're going to take those two coordinates, we're going to subtract our distance from y, right? So, I go up 16 kilometers, okay, 20 minutes. So, 20 minutes, I want to convert that into hours. So, if I think about 20 divided by 60, I get a third. Right? So that means that I've got 0.33333. So if I divide by a third, remember that's the same, I'm going to flip it and multiply. So that means really I'm multiplying by 3 to get my hours. Okay, so my speed in hours is going to be 48 kilometers per hour. Okay, next one. We do 19 kilometers in 10 minutes. Okay, we want to multiply by 6 because, again, I've got 10 out of 60, right? I've got 1 out of 6. So if I divide by 1/6, same as multiplying by 6. Okay, and that gives us our next gradient, or our next speed. Okay, last one, we've got 15 kilometers in 20 minutes. Again, we're going to multiply by 3 because, again, I've got 1 out of 3. If I divide by a third, the same as multiplying by 3, gives us 45 kilometers per hour. Here, we've got a gradient of 0, okay? There's no change in the y over the change in the x. Okay, so even though time is passing, my distance traveled is not. And then from E to F, okay, I do 50 kilometers in 60 minutes, so 50 kilometers per hour, okay? Now, there is a sheet attached to the Google Classroom, the Google Classroom assignment. I want you to take a look at it, okay? You're going to answer the questions in your book, okay? You don't need to print it out. If you want to print it out and have it as a reference, that's your own choice, okay? I'm not bothered with it, but we're not going to require you to draw the graphs, okay? So you're going to take a look at those. You're going to answer the questions in your book. And I just want to quickly go through some key points that I want you to remember. Okay, so time always on our x-axis. Okay, always. Gradient of a line is always the speed. And when we talk about speed, we talk about it as a positive. So even though that line there was technically a negative gradient, we recorded the speed as a positive value. Okay, because remember, you're not going to have a negative speed, and that comes into the idea of speed versus velocity, which is a really fun and interesting science topic that your science teacher will teach you about. Alright, but it comes into vectors and all those sorts of things. Anyway, so parts of the journey are always shown as straight lines, showing a steady average speed. However, in reality, speed... Okay, so when we're talking about calculating speed, we're talking average speed, okay? We're not necessarily taking into consideration all the different changes we're going to get in those different values, okay? But we're just kind of going from where did I start, where did I finish, and kind of giving it a straight line in this case. So you want whole values. Okay, so we want integers. Remember, that's a positive or negative value. That's a whole number. We want to divide the distance in the vertical direction by the distance in the horizontal. So it's always rise over run. Okay, and lines that slope from top left to bottom right have a negative gradient. So if it looks like you could ski down it, it's got a negative gradient. Okay, this has some questions for you. I'm just going to flip through the questions. You can take a look at them. How fast would you be traveling if you covered 60 miles in 2 hours? So what would your speed be? Answer is 30 miles per hour. 3 kilometers in 3 hours? 1 kilometer per hour. 10 kilometers in 15 minutes, 40 kilometers per hour. Again, that one, 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. Divide by 1/4, same as multiplying by 4. Okay? 210 miles in 3 hours, you're going to do 210 divided by 3. That gives you 17 miles per hour. Okay? And I just want you to write at the bottom, did you feel okay about that, middle about it, or sad face about it? Okie dokie? Alright. So, again, you are working on those questions that are attached in the Google Classroom. If you've got any questions that you'd like me to go through some more, or any topics that you'd like me to go through some more, post them on here, and I will try to answer them for you. Okay, thank you. Bye.